Let's rock and roll. Hello and welcome. This has got to be the best and biggest bundle I've ever done on the photo reading workshops. Whether you want to do it in person, whether you want to do it from somewhere around the world, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United States, across Europe, hold tight. Literally, you've never seen anything like this. Now, the reason normally photo reading doesn't come into the deals that I do because it's a licensed course. It's licensed by Learning Strategies Corporation. Many of you are aware of the wonderful work of Dr. Paul Shealy. They have a set price for photo reading, so I basically adhere to that. So yeah, I might do an early booking price, 20% off. You know, if you book early enough, then that's going to reduce down to 15%, 10%, and then full price. But that's about it. I don't necessarily do deals on it for that reason. However, it's my 25-year anniversary right now. So between October 20, the year 2000, and the first week of December, the year 2000, that's when my life completely transformed. And I went from suicidal to being excited about life within a matter of days. And I had been down in the dumps suicidal for several years because that's when I had all the early Alzheimer's stuff going on, where I had the relationship breakup, where I had an NHS treatment that went wrong and I was gaslit to within an inch of my life. I went completely comb overboard. This is all my real hair, but I lost all my hair. My skin was covered in blackheads and whiteheads. I went from a slender size, natural size 8 without dieting to a size 16. So I doubled in size. My energy went through the floor. I was sleeping 12, 15 hours a day when I could, and I was still completely knackered. I permanently looked like I was 7 or 8 months pregnant because of all the bloating, the damage that had been done to my gut biome. You name it, it was all going on back then. But one of the big things that was really depressing is I went from having a very sharp mind to being diagnosed with what was thought to be early onset Alzheimer's in my mid 20s. That's a devastating blow for anyone, no matter what age you are. But in your 20s, I was like 20, 24, 25, something like that. Devastating. And my GP said there was nothing more he could do for me. So that was where I was at when I did that training started that training in October 2000. Many things happened, but one of the things that happened that was absolutely mind-blowing was going from having the worst test on the class, and I had that, it was open book. I had 2 months. I got that test pack in August, I believe it was. I had all the tapes, the cassettes, the books, etc. Could barely make head nor tail of the test and it was open book. I had 2 months. So they looked at my test and they were like, who is this Marilyn Devnish? She's either lazy or stupid because this is just diabolical. I only went to that course to get a refund because that's a long story for another day. But I ended up deciding I was going to stay after that first transformational week. And so I was then like, okay, I'm going to come back in 2.5, 3 weeks and do the master practitioner, it was called. It had another test, which was absolutely humongous compared to the practitioner test was child's play compared to this. And I had less than 2 weeks to do it. And I was in the middle of my chartered accountancy studies because the exams were in the December. So there was no time. And something that happened on that training, the person who was leading the training was on stage, and somebody said, because he was quoting names, dates, case studies, facts, figures, you name it, it's just reeling it off. And somebody said, they put their hand up and they said, how do you remember all of this stuff? And he pointed to the back of the room, to the resource table. And he said, before he pointed, his answer was, I read 20 to 30 books a month. Now, I leaned over to the person sitting next to me and I said, well, he clearly doesn't get out much. She's now a very good friend of mine, lovely Gina. Some of you know Gina. We had a giggle. And then somebody quite rightly said, how do you read 20 to 30 books a month? Because many people don't read 20 to 30 books in a year, never mind 1 month. And that's when he pointed to the back of the room and he pointed to the cassette tape. So hold on, make sure they're all in. This right here is what he pointed to. Now, I purchased these cassette tapes in 1998 and I had them sitting on the shelf for 2 years. And this is where I coined the phrase for myself in that room. I said it's shelf development because my bookshelf was getting way more benefit from this material than I was because it was just sitting there gathering dust. So he points to the back of the room and he says, I photo read. And suddenly I thought, I've got that tape, cassette tape sitting at home. So between the what you call the practitioner and the master practitioner, the first thing I did, I said, before I touch the material, I am going to go back and listen to those cassette tapes with an open mind. Because when I listened to them in 1990, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, that's stupid. Well, that would never work. Because somebody's talking about photo reading at 25,000 words per minute. The average reading speed is anything from 200 to 400 words a minute. So we're talking about 25,000 words per minute. Photo reading a whole book in 5 minutes and then learning strategies to remember and recall what you've read. They were talking about activating left and right brain, drinking information in like you're drinking it in through a fire hose was the phrase that they use. I'm like, dude, you know what? If I could read at 500 words a minute, I would be happy with that. And if I could remember 5 or 10% of what I've read, that would be a really good bonus. So all of this was just going over my head. And I will be honest, when I first got those cassette tapes and I was reading through the literature, even though, the book is amazing. So there's the whole photo reading book, which you get a copy of if when you attend the photo reading in-person workshop. Even with all of the testimonials in the book, I was still like, you know what? This sounds like American hype. And that's why I left it on the shelf because I was like, it's too good to be true. So when that happened in the NLP training room and the trainer pointed to those cassette tapes, I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home. I'm going to close my mouth and I'm going to open my ears and I'm going to listen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put into action what he was Paul Sheely then, he's Dr. Paul Sheely now. And I'm going to put into action what Dr. Paul Sheely is saying without questioning everything, yes, butting everything and thinking that I know better because I've got a business studies degree and a postgraduate marketing diploma and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, shut up and listen and just do what you're told. So that was my approach. The rest, as they say, is history. I went from having the worst test in the class. I believe I was the only person who had no corrections on that test that I had less than 2 weeks to do. Trust me, a friend of mine, the test is so big, she handed in a ring binder with her answers. That's how big this test is. And then just to put the icing on the cake, which was one of the levers that got me to jump on a plane with less than a week's notice and go out to Minneapolis to study to be a photo reading instructor. In May 2001, when I did my NLP trainers training, it's a full day exam. I think it's something like 10 till 6, something like that. It's either 9 till 5 or 10 till 6, one of the two. I didn't revise it in the traditional sense. I just photo read. So I'm photo reading at 25,000 words per minute, because that's what it looks like when you're photo reading a book. I was mind mapping, having fun, doing all the brain activation thing, the tangerine technique, getting into the flow state, activating left and right brain. And then I turn up for the NLP trainers training. So it's 3-week training. I passed everything. Final thing was the written exam, which is the 1-day written exam. Exam conditions. So you leave your bags at the back of the room. Someone hands you a paper. You get your pen, you fill it in, you hand that paper in, they bring you another paper. If you want to go to the bathroom, one of the invigilators follows you to the bathroom. They stand outside the bathroom door, so you're trying to pee quietly so they don't hear you. It's full exam conditions. Having gotten into personal development, thinking, you know what, this is kind of cool, I'm getting into it now. I put a goal in my future timeline. But even though it's a full day exam, 7-8 hours, I'm going to be finished in 3 hours. Pass with flying colors. That was a goal that I'd set for myself when I was at home studying for the trainers. And if you've ever done the trainer exam, it's a big deal. It's a lot of work. So I arrive on site now on the day of the training. And I walked in, it was at the Hilton Hotel in Kensington, Olympia. So I walk into the hotel and there's loads of people sitting around and they've got their books and they've got their folders and, they're going through them and they've got their little cue cards with their little notes on. And somebody looked up at me and they said, Marilyn, because I had nothing. I'm just like breezing in, with my little rucksack and all the rest of it, feeling good. I've photo read, yeah, yeah, yeah. And somebody looks at me and they said, Marilyn, how do you do a submodalities belief change? And in that moment, my mind just went blank. And I looked at them and they looked at me, and I just felt the emotions welling up, and I just burst into tears. So I ran into the bathroom. Someone who was on my team, Deborah Price, who was she was doing the training, but she also worked for the company that I then was also working for, so she followed me into the bathroom. She was like, are you all right? What's going on? Are you okay? And I'm doing like the Oprah ugly cry, and I'm like, I didn't revise. I just voter read. I don't know any. And people are coming in and they're not wanting to like stare, but every time somebody flushed the toilet, I could hear my like £6,000. It was a lot of money, whatever it was, going down the drain. Because even though I'd passed everything up until that point, if you fail the written exam, the whole thing is lost, and I would have to go back and do the trainer's training all over again. And it was one of those rare occasions where Tad James had flown to London to teach the class, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm panicking, I'm crying, and we've got half an hour to go. So I get into the exam room, my nose is flaring, and I'm thinking I could just cry all day, which would probably be really annoying for everyone else in the exam room. That was door number one. Door number two, I could just beat myself up and say, what an idiot. Why didn't you revise? How did you trust this thing called photo reading? Or door number three, I could get myself into the flow state, which is what the photo reading centers around in that step one. And I could do what I've been practicing at home. I decided to go for door number three. The rest, as they say, is history. I filled out the paper, handed it in. Filled out paper, handed it in, filled out paper, handed it in, filled out paper, handed it in, put my hand up, somebody followed me to the bathroom, came back, filled out paper, handed it in, filled out paper, handed it in. And then nobody came back. So I'm sitting in the exam room, everybody's got their head down. Some people hadn't even filled out one or two papers yet. And I put my hand up, and the one of the invigilators came over, and I said, oh, can I have the next paper, please? And she said, you're done, hun, as in you're finished, honey. And it was Sally Davis. Some of you know Sally. And I said, I'm done. She was like, yeah. And then there was at that time there was an episode of Mr. Bean. So Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, the actor who played the character, he was doing an exam. So he does this exam, he finishes the paper, everyone else is still writing. And so he's, organizing his pens, and he's putting them all in order, and he is color coding them. And then he sees someone turn over the question paper, and he suddenly realizes that he's done this whole exam, but he didn't turn the paper over. So there's this whole set of questions that he hasn't answered. And then, of course, in true Mr. Bean style, the papers are flying everywhere. He's in a panic. The invigilator said, you got 30 minutes left. And my heart starts racing. I was like, oh my God, were the exam papers double-sided and I didn't notice? So I put my hand up and I said, you can't have any of, you can have back the last paper that you filled in, but not all of them. So I said, can I have the last paper back, please? So she gave me the last paper that I just handed in. My heart is racing. And I look at it and I look at the questions. I was like, no, I've answered all the questions. So if everything was laid out like this, I'm done. I checked the time. I had finished in 3 hours on the money. 3 hours. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. There were people who were still writing at 6 o'clock who didn't finish those papers. I was back at home by 4:30. Oh, actually, I went upstairs because I got a really nice restaurant there. And about an hour or so later, a Tim who was in our group came up. So he was the second person to finish. And apparently in the background, it went from practitioner test, who is Marilyn Devonish? She must be lazy or stupid, given the state of this test, to trainer's training. They were like, who is Marilyn Devonish? And did she cheat? Because they couldn't explain how I finished in 3 hours. And the thing that made them go, what the hell's going on here? Apparently my paper looked like I just copied it out of the textbook. And for me, it was like, oh my God, the thing that I did differently to everyone else is that I photo read. So I've decided that I'm going to do, to celebrate my 25-year anniversary of rediscovering photo reading. I've been a photo reading instructor since March 2002. However, my rediscovery of photo reading was in October 2000 into November. So I'm going to do something super duper special. So let me show you what I'm thinking. Now, ignore the bottom pricing, the Black Friday pre-launch. This is just a mock-up. The pricing at the top is real. That's what, look, for those of you who know me, I'm not a hype girl. I've had people who've come to the photo reading workshop and gotten angry with me. They're like, well, if I knew it was this, I would have come years ago. Well, why didn't you tell me this is what it's all about? And they literally are angry with me for not. I'm always, well, not always, but I talk about photo reading a lot, and I'm like, I told you what we do, I told you what we cover. They're angry because they now realize that they've wasted and spent years struggling with something, just about making do, getting by, being overwhelmed. The anxiety and all that sort of stuff could have been solved in 2.5 days. So, but it is what it is. So, and I'll show you some of the testimonials from clients as well in a minute. But I'm not a hype girl. So you ask me a question about photo reading, I'm going to answer it, but I'm not going to run you down. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to be phoning you every 5 minutes. I'm not going to be bombarding you with emails. I always just say to people, you know where to find me. If you feel that photo reading is for you and you'd like to, accelerate your brain, do some of the stuff that Bradley Cooper was doing on Limitless and all the rest. And that wasn't me saying it, that it was a trainee neurosurgeon who said that to me. This is a man who cuts up brains for a living. And he was the one who said, have you seen Limitless? Because everything he was a delegate on the workshop. He said, everything you're teaching in here in photo reading is in the movie Limitless. The only thing you're not teaching is time shifting, and you don't need a dangerous silver pill. And that was on the Friday, the first day of the workshop. On the Sunday, he comes back up and he says, Marilyn, I take that back. He said, you are time shifting, because I cannot believe how much we have all learnt, how much everyone has shifted and changed in just 2.5 days. So that's Dr. Koss. His video is on my website, the URL transformationstm.com/photo reading. His video is there on the website, Dr. Koss Fantis. So the offer, as I said, ignore the bottom price, because that was just a mock-up, just so I can put the text in. I haven't decided what I'm going to do the pre-launch for yet, and the first pre-launch will be for those on my e-newsletter list. I'm going to have a set number of those, and then I'll decide what the public price will be. But let me tell you what's included in the Black Friday bundle. So it's the full 3-day online on-demand video webinar photo reading class. So that means you can take this class whenever you want. And one of the advantages I would say this has over and above the in-person, when the in-person workshop is over, it's over. Now, the workshop is amazing. It is incredible. It is life-changing. And people go from confused to clarity, from stressed and overwhelmed and anxious to being in that flow state. They are Zen-like within hours. And once it's over, it's over. With the online on demand, it means if you ever want to refresh, if you ever want to revisit something that we did, if you want to take yourself through the exercises, it's right there for you at the click of a button. So that's the full 21 hours, the full 3-day photo reading on demand video webinar workshop. So that's the first part. Second, what I've decided to do, because there will be people who go, that's cool, I also want to do the in-person. So what I've done with regards to this is I'm including a gift voucher for £444, which means you get 50% off if you want to come and do the full photo reading video webinar class. Now, with regards to that gift voucher, you might purchase this in Australia and you're going, well, Marilyn, I'm not coming to London, or well, I live in Watford in Hertfordshire. We're 20 minutes from London on the London over on the train. So what I'm going to allow you to do, you can gift that gift voucher to someone else. If you're not going to join live in person, you can gift it to someone else, which means they get the full photo reading workshop, which is £888. You get it for half price. So that's the second bonus. Well, third technically. If you want to gift it to someone, I'm sure they'll love you forever. The next one is Unlock Your Genius Code. That's a half-day workshop, again, video webinar workshop. So that's included in the bundle. And that's, for me, is like a fast start. Some of the key principles of photo reading distilled down so you can just hit the ground running in, I think it's about 4.5 hours. The next bundle, which I'm really excited about, never done this before either, for outside of, I have run photo reading mastermind groups before, however they are only for people who have attended the workshops. If you're in the photo reading workshop and I've got time in my schedule, then and some of you will know, you've been on the photo reading workshop, I've not offered it, but if I do have the time and the capacity, then I offer a 6-month mastermind group. Now, this isn't 6 months, this is going to be 2 calls, but we're going to do a couple of online group coaching calls. So those will be live on my video webinar platform. We'll do one at the beginning to get that process going, to kickstart the process, to get you started, to teach you some of those basic principles so you get those under your belt and you start to integrate them. And then we'll do the second and final call towards the end, when everyone's had a chance to go through the online on-demand video webinar class. We'll do another live coaching call where I answer any of the questions that have arisen for you. Now, another thing about the online on-demand, because it was filmed with an audience, the chances are everyone who has taken it has found all their questions are answered, because I'm actually answering the questions of people who were there. And if there's anything that it might be that you're doing something unique. So I've got somebody who's going through it at the moment who's a fighter pilot. I've got someone else who's going through it who is a banker out in Europe. So they might have something very specific. So he was asking, for example, what's the strategy I can use for recognizing aircraft? Because one of the things when you're a fighter pilot, you've got to be able to recognize them by sight. You've got to see the shape of it and know that's an F-51 bomber or whatever it is. So you might have some specific things that are more specialized than everything that I'm answering on the workshop. So there'll be the live group coaching call. And of course, if you can't make it, you'll get a copy of the replay recording. And then this bonus, the MP3, which is slightly covered up by my video, is going to be an MP3 recording of getting into the flow state. Now, people have been saying for over 20 years, my God, that is so good. I wish you could record that. Is there a recording? Have you done this anywhere? And at one point, one year, I bought like a handheld recorder, couldn't get the darn thing to work. This was about 15 years ago. And so it's never been recorded. But what I've decided to do is I'll do an MP3 recording of that flow state process so that you can instantly get yourself into the flow state whenever you want to, whenever you need to. And that's going to be an MP3. That's going to be an audio. So if you were to do all of that one by one individually, that's £1,800. With the Black Friday deal, as I said, this is not necessarily the price. It might be the price of my e-news. I haven't decided yet. But the Black Friday deal is going to be a good 60, 70 or so % less than that. And for those who book when I launch it and within the time window that I specify, you are also going to get the fast action bonus, which is the 12-month 61 set of the Paraliminals. Oh my God. Paraliminals. I used to call them the lazy way to change. If you've never listened to a paraliminal, it'll blow your mind. You've got one story, one story in the left ear, a completely different story in the right ear. They run simultaneously. There's hollow sync technology that runs through the center of that. And at various points, the stories dovetail together because they're joined by the same word. And then they fan out again. It's not subliminal programming. It's not anything like that. Oh my God, but there, you name it, there's a paraliminal for health, relationships, money, abundance, youthful vitality, success, sales, presentation, you name it, there is a paraliminal for it now. And you're going to get the full paraliminal library, which is it's an app. So you can listen to it on your device. You can listen to it on your phone. I think you can also listen to it on your PC, but it's quite nice to be able to put your headphones in, choose the paraliminal that they want. They typically run about 20 minutes on average. Some of them are a bit longer, some of them a bit shorter, but they are amazing. And it was a Get Around to It, New Behavior Generator, were the ones that I started listening to in the 1990s. They were amazing. So when I was kind of kind of getting to the point where I was contemplating suicide, the paraliminals was something that would really help kind of get me back on track and help get me through the day. They're amazing. So you'll get that as a fast action bonus, and you got 12 months access to all the full paraliminal library. So that's going to be for a limited time for a limited number of people. So that is the deal. That's the Black Friday deal. I think it's amazing. And I'm just going to very quickly, I'm going to do this like rapid fire. So let me just pull them up. I'm just going to show you some of the testimonials from people who have been through that class and some of the wonderful things they've achieved. So this was someone who sent me a message out of the blue years after they did the photo reading workshop. It said, Marilyn, I changed paths. I'm practicing law thanks to photo reading. It gave me the confidence to read a lot of material in a short space of time and retain it. And then they said, those law exams are no joke. If you studied law, she's a lawyer. Those exams are serious. That is a fantastic ROI, return on investment, from 2.5 days. I don't know many things that aren't, just puff and smoke and hype. I don't know many things that will deliver that kind of ROI for you. So that was the first one. Our lawyer. Who have we got next? We have got Naomi Tamayama, single mom, entrepreneur. She attended the workshop. I saw this that she posted on Facebook. I said, oh my God, can I quote you? Can I create a quote? She's like, yeah, sure. She said, bear in mind, she's an entrepreneur running 3 different businesses and had a young son at that point. He's, of course, a little bit older now. She said, I have spent less than an hour reading 8 books on a topic and have just compiled a piece of work from this. Game changer, real life skills. Naomi Tamayama from Mad Dog Designs. Mad is MADD, dog DOGG, Mad Dog Designs. Check her out on Facebook. She's amazing. So that was Naomi. How many people, seriously, 8 books in an hour? Most people can't read 1 book in 8 hours. Just really get your head around that for a moment. So that was Naomi. Let's see, who have we got next in the mix? Oh yeah. So this was from the very first group of people. So the questions you hear me answering are from this group of people. They attended the very first time that I ran the photo reading workshop as an online workshop. It'd never been done before. It was way before the pandemic. I think I ran it in like 2018, 19. Even Learning Strategies, who created photo reading in 1985, had never run the full certification class online. So I said to them, are you okay for me to do it? They were like, I don't really think so. That's not really going to work. And I said, let me run it. As if it doesn't go brilliantly, I'll refund everyone and I'll never do it again. They're like, okay. The feedback was amazing. When you put the feedback forms of the in-person and the online side by side, you would not be able to tell the difference. This is just one. And they were online for 20, of course we had breaks, but they were online for 21 hours. I did it exactly the same way I run the photo reading workshop. So when I run the live workshops, we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So short. Anyway, I did it exactly the same. We did half day on the Friday, and then we did 2 quite long days on the Saturday and the Sundays, 21 hours. This is what they said: inspiring, creative, intensive, engaging, brilliant. Most people think 21 hours online, you'd be like through the floor. People were buzzing by the end because it's like the lights of which you've never seen before. If you've been bored to death on Zoom calls and zoomed out, this is not that. It will blow your mind. So that was from the first set of people who did it. We also have the bonus Huna session, which is included also in the online class. So this was someone, she said, talk about grabbing the bull by the horns. When you did the Huna healing on me, oh my God, I couldn't believe how accurate your diagnosis was. You didn't tell me you're a doctor as well as everything else. The reason I started doing the Huna, and I started doing the Huna on the photo reading workshop about, 12 years ago, something like that, 10, 12 years ago, is because I realized that there's only 5 steps with photo reading: prepare, preview, photo read, post view, activate. Prepare, you can do that in 30 seconds. The preview is 60 to 90 seconds. To photo read your book is about approximately 5 minutes. The post view, I allow my attendees about 2.5, 3 minutes. The activation, you can activate a book in minutes. They're really short. I was like, what is it that's getting people hung up with the photo reading? Why isn't everybody just getting it? And I realized it was their mindset. So I started doing a Huna and access consciousness belief change session for people mind blowing. So this is what they're referring to here. Let's see, who shall we bring up next? What have we got next? Oh, yes. Now, people often ask about ages. What age group is this suitable for? I've had attendees age 7 to 70 plus. I had a lovely wing commander who I believe was in his 90s, and everything in between. So this is from an 11-year-old that attends. So I had a family fly in from Europe, 2 daughters and their son. So she said, Marilyn, you helped me so much being a better person and feeling better about myself. Imagine the gift of that. Somebody who's struggling with their studies, the gift that you give them, that this carries them throughout their entire life. For me, that's kind of, when people say, oh, it's priceless, and like, yeah, whatever. I genuinely believe it. What a gift. Don't be waiting until you're 50, 60, 70, 80. Do it now. Brilliant for children. So that's that one. Let's see. Who are we going to bring up next? Let me check the stack. I'll show you the brain damage one, because people often go, yeah, but many people are not coming in with this kind of brain damage. This was from one of my clients. Some of you might know Kay Westmoreland, the conscious accountant. She was in a near fatal plane crash years before she attended the photo reading. She's one of those people who kept saying, will your photo reading help me? I'm like, yeah, I think it'd be great. You should do the photo reading. Yeah, why don't you come along? And this went on for years, like 5 or 6 years. She finally attends the photo reading workshop. She brings her daughter. We're walking back to the station on the Friday night, the first day of the photo reading. And I said, I'm going in a similar direction. I walked down towards the station with you. And they were both kind of looking a bit tearful. And I said, is everything all right? She said, we were just talking, Marilyn. She said, my daughter had a really hard time with her studies. It was really starting to get on top of her. And we were just saying how much easier it would have been had she had the photo reading when we first spoke about it all those years ago. And I'm like, I know. But so with regards to the brain, Kay had sustained some brain damage in the plane crash. Unfortunately, it was her and her partner in a light aircraft. Her partner didn't make it, and she was touch and go. It's like a story from a Hollywood movie. So although she was functioning, she had found strategies to work around it. So you wouldn't necessarily know, but Kay knew she wasn't herself after that with the brain damage. She'd done all the tests in the hospital in London. They said, there's nothing more we can do for you. This is what she said about the photo reading. She said, your photo reading course has really changed everything, Marilyn. My brain just feels rewired. A short time later, a couple of weeks later, she's in a meeting with Nick Haynes, a mutual friend of ours. He had no idea what she'd been doing. And she said he just looked at her in the middle of the meeting and said, Kay, you're back, in terms of firing on all cylinders. And a few months later, she was having tea with her mum. And again, her mum didn't know anything that she'd been doing. She said, my mum just looked at me and she said, Kay, you're back. 2.5 days. 2.5 days of your time is all that is required. Of course, I'm going to have to say the thing, results will vary. Of course, results will vary. I'm just giving you a smorgasbord and a little flavour of the things that people have said. Now, are there any more I want to share with you? I think you're kind of getting the gist of where we're going with regards to this. Okay, I'm going to share with you. Okay, oh, this is a good one. All right, so I'm going to put that one there. And then I'm going to go back here, do that, and then make that one a little bit bigger. So this was a team of rocket scientists from Cranfield University, the army base in Trivenham. I rock up, fresh face, I was in my early 30s, and I'm going around the room and I'm saying, okay, where do you work? What will be your application for photo reading? The first person said, I'm a rocket scientist. And I was like, are they pulling my leg? I didn't laugh, but in my head, I'm like, are they making this up? Are they just kind of, taking the mick? Next person, I'm a rocket scientist. Of the people that were in the room, I think it was like 12 people there, like 8 of them were rocket scientists. These people know how to learn. This is a selection from the words that they used to describe the photo reading workshop. Stimulate, and I would not expect this from people in the MOD on an army base who are rocket scientists. This is not the kind of language I would expect them to be using. Stimulating, valuable, highly recommended, professional, excellent, enlightening, fun, relaxing, motivating, time well spent, should be given to all first year PhD students. Now, Cranfield have never actually given it to all first year. It would be wonderful if they did. But that was the feedback from a team of rocket scientists at Cranfield University. How awesome is that? So let's see. There was a couple others that I just will share with you before we go. This one was so funny. Oh my God. The reason I have people get angry when they finally do the workshop, they're like, if I had known it was all of this, if I had known it was this transformational, if I had known it covers all of this, if I had known you can apply it to so many areas of your life, if I had known I could change so much in just a few hours, I would have come years ago. I would have come when you first told me about it. I had somebody who had waited 10 years before they got themselves in the room. And I'm like, well, clearly I'm not communicating in an efficient way in terms of the benefits of photo reading, etc., etc. So I had someone attend who's a marketing executive. Her life, her job is marketing. I was like, yes, hallelujah. She can put it into words for me, finally. So I said, can you help me and put this into words? Here was her feedback. This is the honest feedback. This is the feedback she gave. She says, I see your issue with marketing. How to get people to believe all the changes with something so seemingly simple as photo reading. A good dilemma. That was her feedback. So it still left me with the dilemma of how do you put into words the power of photo reading. But that was from the marketing specialist. She was like, Marilyn, that's a good dilemma to have. So as I said, I wasn't completely over the moon about that. But you know, what can I say? And this one, I was at the TCCHE where I've emceed that event for the last, I don't know how, we had a break for COVID, which is why I say I don't know. But so there was a little break point, but good 6 or 7 years now. And there was somebody who had flown in from Japan, and he was on his knees. And I said, oh, you're going to be coming back for the film night? And he said, oh, no, I think I'm too tired. I've got jet lag. We came in from Japan. I came straight from the airport. And Huna is the bonus thing that we do on the photo reading. So I was just going, it was the night of the speaker dinner. So it would have been the Saturday night. So all of the speakers, we go out to a restaurant and have dinner. So that's where, you know, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza back in the day, the JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Lynn McTaggart, you know, they're all there. We all go for a lovely dinner. It's amazing. So I'm just on my way up to get ready for dinner. And I said, oh, would you like, I didn't say what it was. I said, would you like a little energy burst? And he was like, yeah, okay. So we're standing in the room. There's like 500 people walking around us. And I just did like a minute or two of Huna. So I'm in the room, I'm like, and he's standing there and his two colleagues are like, what's going on? And I did that and I said, oh, just let me know how you feel in the morning. So I arrive in the morning the next day and there he was. I said, oh, you know, good morning. He came up and he says, Marilyn, he said, Huna is better than Starbucks. Huna is better than Red Bull. He was buzzing. And then I saw him the next day after that. He was bouncing off the ceilings. It was amazing. And so Huna it's not part of photo reading. However, as I said, because I recognized that there was a little bit of it's like, you know, there's something that is just getting in people's way. So the Huna is a lovely bonus thing that we do and that we have. And the final thing I'm going to share with you, I think, in closing is if you've ever wanted to, you know, there was it Sure, if I can turn back time, and I can hear simply read holding back the years. Look, I'm not saying you're going to get younger. We're not doing time traveling in that particular sense. However, people come out feeling revitalized and refreshed. So this was an author who'd flown in from Ireland, and she said she was in her 50s. She said, you have opened up so many possibilities for me and inspired me to expand my life and knowledge. I don't feel as old as I did when I came. Thank you. When I say photo reading is life changing, and it is a game changer, and it is mind blowing, that doesn't do it justice. It genuinely does not do it justice. And one of the things, you know, I've had, as you've seen from some of the testimonials, I've had everyone from rocket scientists, accountants, lawyers, neuroscientists, pilots, marketing specialists, crystal healers, consultants, trainers, coaches, school teachers, firemen, forklift truck drivers, students, of course, you name it. It's been everyone in all of that and so much more. So it's not subject dependent. It's not industry dependent. I'm going to say it's brain and mindset dependent. If you have an open mind and a willingness to learn and you want to tap into and activate your limitless genius potential, it's for you. It's just amazing. It's just beyond amazing. And in terms of the applications of photo reading, they have been so wide and varied. Now, some of you might know Sifu Boggy, for example. I used to do, well, Sifu Boggy did an interview with me. And then he invited me on one of his shows to, there was somebody else. He said, oh, there'll be a good synergy between the two of you. So I went on the show. And then I started getting invited on the show every single week because he said, Marilyn, the questions you come up with are amazing. So he used to introduce me as the questioner. Some of you have been out with me at events and talks where I'm watching the talk. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. They say any questions, I ask a question. I've been to events across a different range of industries. And I have people queuing up to talk to me at the end because they're like, oh my God, are you the person who asked that question? That was the best question of the day. That was an incredible question. I sort of wanted to answer, but I didn't have the words. I couldn't articulate it. And when you said it, I was like, oh my God, that hit. And it's been happening for the last 25 years. If you've ever, I don't think anybody has that I know, if you've watched some of those council meetings, when I was a local councillor, I was at an event on Sunday for Remembrance Sunday. For the last year and a half, I'm running into people and they're going, Marilyn, I really miss you in the council meetings. Your questions were always incredible. Your questions always got to the heart of the matter. Your questions always made me think. Because one of the people one of the council officers said, you used to ask questions and you'd ask a question, then I would be thinking, why didn't I think of that? How is it that I didn't think of that? There is something about the questions. And you name the scenario, I have had it happen. Some of you are at the Brian Weiss thing, Many Lives, Many Masters. A few years ago, it was organised by Hay House. Now, I bought my ticket really late, so I was up in the gods in the in the cheap seats, and so we're up in the rafters, and the main conference is down there. It was at the Friends Meeting House at London Euston. And so Dr. Brian Weiss, he's taking questions from everyone down in the auditorium throughout the day. And then he said, right, it's the final Q&A. We've got maybe time for one, maybe two questions. So I very cheekily, I sort of shouted out, I went, what about us up here? We've got questions too. So he looks up and he looks at me and he said, it better be a good one. So he said, what's your question? So I shout my question down. Dr. Weiss was just like, whoa. Now, people have been asking questions all day at this Hay House event. So somebody would ask a question, Dr. Weiss would answer it. Next. There'd be no round of applause. I asked the question. He looks at me and he was like dumbfounded. The whole auditorium bursts into a round of applause. And then he said to me, that was a great question. Can you say it again? Because it kind of fried his circuits a bit. So I repeat the question. Some of you may have been there at that time, and I had people coming up at the end going, were you the woman who asked the question at the end? Oh my God, such a great question. It happens all the time and it's not an accident. I'm using processes from photo reading. For those of you who do public speaking, presentation skills, whether that's speaking in meetings, speaking to your team, or being on camera or being on stage, photo reading is incredible for that, because now you're no longer reliant on your notes or doing death by PowerPoint where you basically shove your notes on a PowerPoint slide, because it's all about left and right brain integration, the logic and the creative, getting into the flow state and learning how to activate your brain. You can stand up and deliver a presentation. You can do a TV interview, a radio. Some of you know I do a lot of live TV. I do live radio interviews. So I never know, even if they tell me we're going to talk about this, I know that something else is going to come up, or it'll be a complete curveball, or sometimes I just rock up to the TV studio not having any clue what they really want, the direction that they want to take it. And it's photo reading that gives you that sense of agility to be able to think on your feet and answer in a way that is clear and eloquent. So you're not worrying about putting your foot in it and saying something silly and making a fool of yourself. And this happens a lot in exams, but it also happens in real life. You walk away from a scenario and then everything comes flooding back. You're like, oh man, I should have said this and I should have said that. And none of that happens. So that means you can rock up to those TV radios, those interviews, those podcasts, those webinars, and just be in flow. and just have those words coming so that you get to the end of the live show, the recording, whatever, and you're like, yeah, really pleased with that, rather than, as many people do, walk away like, oh gosh, wasn't I, it went out of my head and I should have said this and I wish I said that, and oh, I didn't answer that very clearly, or they asked me a question I wasn't expecting, it really threw me, and I stumbled, or I was, but somebody had to rescue them. Photo reading helps resolve all of those issues. So it's not just about students taking exams. Of course, it's amazing for that. If you're an executive, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are employed, if you are a CEO, there's probably documentation you are required to read, books, journals, PDFs, whatever it happens to be. Still got to keep up with the game. And as AI is now kind of taking over, it's creating a lot more data. That's not necessarily making our life easier. Just think about it. You ask Chat GPT, Grok, Claude, etc. a question, it's going to spew out a load of data. That's now more stuff for you to read. That's more information for you to assimilate, to take on board, to disseminate. And then for some people, they're just going to regurgitate it. I don't recommend that with AI. And we'll probably talk about it, because I'm running a photo reading workshop tomorrow and Saturday. We'll probably talk about the AI aspect, if that's the direction that the group want to take it in. But in many respects, the data, the information that we now have access to, is actually putting us into information overload, and it's causing more overwhelm rather than less. So if you want to be more mentally agile, if you want to help resolve brain fog, if you want to improve your critical thinking skills, your decision-making skills, your creativity, your intuition, because my God, one of the things that heightens when you use photo reading is your intuition. Oh my, I can't even begin to put into words how incredible it is, how incredible it has been, not just for me with the early onset Alzheimer's and all of that sort of stuff, but with the clients that have come through those photo reading doors. As I said, I've done my best to give you a gist of what you can expect. And if you would like to partake in the photo reading bundle, as I said, there's going to be, as always, there'll be a different price for those of you who are on my e-newsletter list. There always is. And then there'll be another price that then goes out to the public with regards to the offer. But as I said, this is the bundle that I've put together. I haven't yet set the page up or anything like that, but when I do, I'll send it out to my e-newsletter list. I'll probably have a set number, because it is quite a big giveaway, and there's a lot that's offered there. So if you're on my e-newsletter list, if you're not and you want to sign up, it's free. It's transformationstm.com. That's TRANCE, as in hypnotic trance, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS, TM.com. So transformationstm as in trademark.com. Top left, you'll see a box where you can put yourself into my MailChimp e-newsletter. So you always get first notification, special pricing, etc. Outside of that, you can keep an eye on social media, but you and I both know what the algorithms are like. So there is a chance that you will not see this until the offer is over. And when it's over, it's over. We're not playing. As I said, I'm not that kind of fake hype girl. And that's the URL going across this down the bottom of the screen as well. If you want to check out just photo reading generally, transformationstm.com/photo reading. You'll see some of the testimonials there. Compared to the testimonials I've got, all the testimonials I've shown you, none of them are on that website, because the website is super duper old. It's as old as it looks. That website was created in 2001. So that's 24 years ago, nearly 25 years ago, if you're watching this in real time. But you'll get there's some video testimonials up there. But I said it's woefully out of date. I've got hundreds of testimonials, but they're not necessarily represented on the site. But if you want to hear people in their own words, go to the website. You'll see some testimonials there. If you've got any questions or queries, anything I haven't particularly answered about photo reading that you're curious about, that you want to know more about, then by all means, when I am running them in person, I run them in Watford. So it's 20 minutes on the train from London Euston. You can actually use your Oyster card. That's the last stop where you can use your Oyster card, coming in this direction outside of London. And then the venue that I'm using is right in the centre of town, so it's less than 10 minutes walk, very central. And the venue that I'm using this weekend, for example, we're a stone's throw from Marks and Spencer's. It's a private little property, so we've got our own kitchen, we've got our own bathroom and all that. I've got a microwave and a toaster and all the rest of it, so it's very cool. Really lovely environment, but we're right in the centre of Watford. So once you get into Watford Junction, there is a Watford on the Met Line. That's different. You're going to have about a 20-25 minute walk into the centre of town, but if you're coming into Watford Junction, then it's less than 10. I walk pretty fast. So I always say about 5 to 10. But people, my clients have walked going, it's more than 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, 10 minutes. But, less than about 10 minutes, definitely less than 15. Be right in the centre of town, just around the corner from Watford Palace Theatre. Do visit the theatre if you haven't been. Show's always amazing. I don't just say that because I'm on the board of trustees. I genuinely mean it. Amazing. So we're just around the corner from Watford Palace Theatre. If you know the centre of Watford, and about a minute's walk from Marks and Spencer's. That's it. Can't see any questions in the chat, so I think we're all good with regards to that. So yeah, I thought for the 25, and the reason I'm probably going to go more than 50% off, and I've been doing 50% off, 60%, more than that for people on my e-newsletter because they get an extra 10%. The reason I've doubled it up for the 25-year anniversary, because I've had offers running throughout October, and I'll do a couple more as we lead into the first week of December, which is covering the period where I stumbled into personal development, because I don't think I'm going to be doing this in 50 years' time. So that's why you're going to get a better deal now, and I'm kind of doubling up on the 50%. So yes, questions, queries, you can put them in the comments. If you're watching this on Facebook, it'll be the comments. Feel free to give it a like, give it a share if you know people who could benefit. If you are on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to my channel, my main channel, the Marilyn Devonish one, it's like a repository. If I'm going to embed videos, I just put them on that channel. I haven't got a specialist channel. So all of the photo reading videos and testimonials and little mini sessions are somewhere in that channel. But if you search photo reading and Marilyn Devonish, they will come up. But feel free to subscribe. That will be amazing as well. Give the video a little thumbs up. And if you've got questions, you can also ask your questions there. I will cycle back and answer the questions that come up. But yeah, and if you want to join us live in person with regards to this voucher, that will be for not necessarily for this year, because you're probably watching this after I've run this weekend's workshop, but it will be for next year. And what I will do with the people who have taken up this offer and they want to come to the in-person, then I'll email you all. We'll choose a date that everyone can do, because there's no point me setting a date and going, oh, I can't make it. So we'll do the herding cats thing, as I call it, find a date that everyone can do. It's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then once we've set the date for the people who have pre-booked, those dates then go out to the public so people can make it. Great. If they can't, oh well. So that's the way it will work. But the voucher, you'll apply that into next year's photo reading for the full price workshop. That 444 doesn't apply to existing offers. It's based on the photo reading workshop at full price. All right, so I think those are the questions that will initially come to mind for people. But if there's anything else I haven't covered, let me know in the comments. I would love to work with you either virtually or in person, if that's what you want to do as well. But as I said, I've structured the deal so you can get the best of both worlds, plus some of the other wonderful things that really take photo reading to the next level. Paraliminals is one. Finally, after 23 years, having the recording of getting into the flow state will be another one. The coaching is a way to bring it to life, and the Genius Code is just incredible as a standalone workshop, even if you weren't doing the photo reading. So yeah, look out for the Black Friday bundle, or when it launches. First, it will be my e-newsletter list, then it will be out to the public, and there will be a restricted number, and it will be time limited as well. But I thought, let's do something special. As I've done an NLP offer, I did a hypnotherapy offer, a Huna offer, because I want to honor all of the things that I learned 25 years ago. Photo reading was an integral part. So I had been thinking, oh gosh, how do I do the photo reading in a creative way? And this is what I came up with last night after a mentoring call where I was being mentored. I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. So I'd love, 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 love you to have your experience of photo reading, experience some of the wonderful things that previous attendees have experienced over the last 23 years. It is amazing. As I said, photo reading has been predates my involvement. It was first run in 1985. And for those of you who are fans of Tony Robbins or Jack Canfield, they are on the back of the book. Jack Canfield said, if you read more slowly than you'd like, consider taking a course to increase not only your reading speed, but also how fast you absorb information. The best resource I found is the photo reading course developed by Paul Sheeley. And I did my instructor training with Dr. Paul Sheeley. I flew out to Minneapolis to study with Paul and Lynette Ayres. And Anthony Robbins said, I have seen Paul Sheeley help countless numbers of people to discover a faster, more efficient path to success through his photo reading system. No matter what you need to read, he can teach you to get it done in a third of the time. Anthony Robbins, author of Awaken the Giant Within and Unlimited Power, and Jack Canfield, of course, co-wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series and Success Principles, and starred in The Secret DVD. So yeah, when I finally woke up and like, Marilyn, just listen and do what you're told, I was like, well, if it's good enough for Jack Canfield and Anthony Robbins, both of whom I'd heard of by that time, it's good enough for me. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you know someone who could benefit from learning photo reading, either from the comfort of their home and office for the on-demand version, or they want to join me in person next year, then please feel free to share this video with them. Share the link with them when I do the Black Friday launch. That will be very much appreciated. For those who like that kind of stuff as well, I have got a partner program where you can create your own link and you can share it with your group and be rewarded for that as well. If you want to do that, just let me know. I'll send you the page where you can just sign up. Again, that's free if you want to do it. And you get rewarded for sharing it. And some people just like to share because they want to share. And I was like, yeah, I can do a bit of partnering, a bit of affiliate marketing. Why don't mind if I do. So let me know either way. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sharing. And thank you to everyone who has come through either those in-person doors or those virtual photo reading doors since 2002, because without you, there is no course, there is no training. So I really appreciate it. And also thank you for everyone who generously shares their testimonials, has done the videos. Just awesome, because it's lovely for people to hear, not just from me saying, oh my God, it's amazing, but hearing from people who've really been through it and changed and transformed their life, their mind, their brain, their outlook. You know, it's beyond personal development. That's another thing people say. This was like, one of them, he was a software programmer. He said, this is the best personal development course I've ever attended, hands down. And again, not what he was expecting. It went way beyond and into the stratosphere. So I really look forward to sharing photo reading with you. Always excited about photo reading. And as I said, I'm probably not going to be here doing that in 50 years' time. So grab it while you can. Marilyn Devonish, the Neuro Success Coach, Rapid Transformation Specialist, Futurist, and Certified Photo Reading Instructor since March 2002 from transformationstm.com/photo reading. Over and out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing.